Welcome to another BDSM 101. This is part two. We just finished part one. We finished it strong, but we didn't want to go over an hour, and it was clear at 13 videos we wouldn't be able to get them all in an hour. So we're splitting it. This is going to be the part two. We hope to get all 18 videos in within an hour. We were debating cutting this up into three, but we had a good flow on that first part. We are at part 13 of 31. We are going to try to push through with some great educational content. We're kind of shrinking these videos. Now, remember that you guys can make them make the parts go faster with speed. So if you want to go a little faster or try to skip between them, at one point we might go back and try to actually arrange the different topic points. But for right now, we wanted to get it up. We have a September deadline to get a lot of stuff up because TikTok might go away. This is all original content from TikTok on our Kink Educator channel. And hopefully later, they'll figure out TikTok being able to stay. But we wanted to bring a lot of content onto you guys. And we didn't want to just make 31 different shorts. We wanted to put them all together. So without further ado, we are going to go live with the TikToks right now. This was recorded live. So we appreciate you all tuning in. We're going to be moving our video to the more appropriate next one. And thank you all for tuning in. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If we don't answer them during the live, we will certainly get back to you. Here we go. BDSM 101, part two. Very important information. Let's go. BDSM 101, outing. It seems to be something, especially here on the internet, and many people have no problem doing. If someone outs anyone's information, especially on a TikTok, like someone just tried to do, credit to TikTok for not actually letting them out where I lived, down to the town, they actually filtered it. Good job, TikTok. This person is a huge red flag in our community. The fact that people think it's okay to do this, it just shows who they are. So anyone outs anyone's information, they shouldn't be allowed at a community event. I've got receipts now. I've got a screenshot of someone outing my information that would have gone public, that could affect my family and actually my kid, and has in the past. This is the most dangerous thing in our community. The most vile thing is a consent violation. The most dangerous thing are people who out. More dangerous than predators. Let that sink in. How do you out someone? Talk about any of their personal information ever. It's that simple. You have no right to share anyone's information but your own. Don't be someone who outs them, because I tell you right now, when you call someone out for outing, that's the end. It's the worst thing you can do in our community. Even predators are thought as higher than people who out information. So it is the one time I think everyone agrees that when someone outs personal information, there is never an excuse. People got pissed when I threatened to out some of the TikTok jockeys on here. Just their inboxes, I got in trouble for threatening to show the messages they were sending behind the scenes. That's how serious people take it. So be aware. If someone outs your private information, this community will back you. There's nothing worse than that. Welcome to another BDSM 101. Today we're going to talk about mitigating miscommunication and mitigating confusion. So we talked about a lot in this series of BDSM 101 about negotiation, and then we talked about communication. We talked about a lot of it, but I'm going to really focus in on the top things about miscommunicating and why they lead to issues. So here we go. You have to be clear, very clear with your words, especially when they are not something that you want to happen. So wanting something to happen, usually you're excited. You might just say, yeah, that's great. That's fine. When something isn't something you want and you're building something with a partner, they deserve a higher level of honesty behind things. I say this is a lot as someone who's a top and a dom. I don't want people sugarcoating or trying to make me happy when it comes to communication, negotiation. I don't want the miscommunication to occur. So we're trying to bust. We're being the miscommunication busters in this video. So here are a few things to consider. If someone asks if you don't like something and it's a boundary, Get rid of a word that is hard or soft boundary. If there is something that maybe one day down the road you would be willing to try, still put it in the boundary section. But you could always tell them, hey, this is a boundary, but it is something I might be willing to explore later. For now, let's leave it in the boundaries. I think when we teach soft and hard boundaries, we're going to have middle boundaries too, and that would be an age play thing. Gotta put some humor in. But anyway, if we're going to do that and we're going to water down what a boundary is, we start to forget there's still boundaries. So be clear. No miscommunication here. That's it. It's a boundary. But this is something you can ask me about later. You can say that. It's perfectly fine. Fine. You can tell them, hey, this is a hard boundary. Don't ever bring it up. This is proper communication, and this makes sure someone doesn't lead to this doesn't lead to miscommunication. Don't get a contract, but make a blueprint. Write these things down. I created a comic book that I use personally to build a dynamic. Do I have it for sale? I absolutely do. But if you watch this video, I'll tell you how to go somewhere to get it for free for the summer classes that we're doing for the summer school 2025. So I can give you a free PDF copy of it. I'm not trying to make money. I'm trying to educate here. So I want you to understand that communication, write it down, hand it to the other person, share notes. I still refer to notes from my partner. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, my partner did say that. Memories kind of fade. That's why we want to put more intense and clear, concise communication. This is a hard limit. Do not do I know my partner's hard limits. Never going to go there. There are times, of course, you get like, hey, I'd like to do this to you. Oh, wait, that's a hard limit. That's something I want that they don't want. So remember, you are, no matter what side of the slash you are on, you are performing for each other, or you are experiencing something with each other, or you're living out who you are with the other person, depending on what stage you're at, whether you're a pickup player or you're in a committed relationship that involves someone wearing a collar. All of this matters. Miscommunication happens when we leave gray. This is why we stay away from consent. Consent should be informed, consent. Because you need to inform. That's why we use diaper. Did I ask permission extensively with representation? So you want to make sure we are doing that. And extensively is a period where you're definitely painting a picture. You're talking about what you're going to do. And with representation, that is them and you having a conversation about questions. Where did you get your education? How do you know how to do this? This is where we no longer have miscommunication. It is clear. You're having deeper conversations. You're negotiating. All of this comes together. We don't want moments where we're using softer language or leaving something in the gray area. Now, remember, focus on this in your dynamic, in your lifestyle journey. If I don't say yes, it's always a no. I would suggest that most people get rid of the word maybe, if possible. I do know, especially for women, that sometimes they feel a pressure, a social pressure to not say no. And I'm not going to not acknowledge that in this video. So that's why I also teach if someone says maybe, take it as a no for at least 24 hours, if not longer. A lot of times, let them bring it back up. They will respect you for it. They might be like, oh, you didn't have to, but trust me, they're thanking you for it. Because there is sometimes intimidation in saying no, especially in a culture where you're taught you're not allowed to say no. Be mindful of that. So if someone says maybe, you pick up the slack and go, okay, I got you. Cool. Let's talk about what the yeses are. Let's get to the yeses. Do not try to turn no's into yeses. Do not use people's plastic pieces on your fantasy journey. Please, please, they are human beings. Treat them like, if you wouldn't respect yourself enough for this, treat them how you want to be treated. I want you to think about the person you love the most in your life, a person that you would literally jump in front of moving objects to save them. And I want you to treat them with as much love, respect, care, concern, protectiveness as you would that person. That's what you're partnering with. I don't care if it's single use pickup play.
you're going to follow it. This miscommunication, I'm going to say it's not going to be popular for some, but it's true, always starts at the top because the top needs to get informed consent. It is your job to make sure you are informed of what a yes is. If it's not a yes, treat it as a no. Treat it as a no. If you guys have any other questions about this, we can talk about it. If you want to bring up something that you think is a valuable thing, let's talk about it. Let's continue this conversation. Check out all the other BDSM 101s in the playlist that you can find on our channel's profile just above the first 3 videos. Stay kinky, my friends, and learn to negotiate, communicate, and get rid of all the things that can lead to miscommunication. Be clear in your needs, expectations, and wants. That's why we have a new acronym. Welcome to another BDSM 101. Today we're going to talk about mitigating miscommunication and mitigating confusion. So we talked about a lot in this series of BDSM 101 about negotiation, and then we talked about communication. We talked about a lot of it, but I'm going to really focus in on the top things about miscommunication.
BDSM 101, outing.
Welcome to BDSM 101, and we're going to explain why contracts are so problematic and dangerous in this lifestyle. I want you to understand that people are no longer with us because they signed a contract, were told they had to follow it, took it literally to the point where they did things that made themselves sick, and they are no longer with us. This is the abuse that comes from contract and the idea that someone has no choice. If you want to play in this lifestyle telling a partner that they have no choice because they signed a piece of paper, you are a horrible human being and you are an abusive person. Contracts, they're not meant for this lifestyle. Contracts, there's always one person who gets more out of the deal than the other person. It's just the reality of a contract. And a lot of times they're written by the doms who don't think anything. And if you want to know why they're really, really problematic, it's when anytime you run into a switch couple that has signed a contract, and of course when the person is writing it, the top of the moment, because that's what they're playing, or the more often top writes it to be the advantage to the top. And the minute they have to switch roles, the top cries foul when something doesn't go their way, because the way it's written gives them no, if any, power to say no or have an idea. This is not what this lifestyle is about. People get that wrong. You can trust a partner over time and let them lead, but they should never be the one fully in control. Even the most slave of slaves should have a voice. And a contract also is not adjustable on the fly. Between porch time and different conversations, there should be amendments to these lifestyle dynamics that we build. And without those, well, amendments, we don't have growth. So a contract is this very rigid thing. It's got these unevolving parameters. You should be building structures. Look at everything you do as an agreement, as a blueprint. I like blueprint. You're going to start building something. Maybe you start with a little cottage and then you make this monstering tower for the industry, for your kink established entity. The dynamic that towers over the Sears Tower. It should be fun as well. I think contracts take the fun out of our lifestyle. And I think that, well, let's sit down and rewrite the contract. Well, I'm in charge. I think power absolutely corrupts. And I think sometimes contracts lead people to believe shit that ain't true. So contracts aren't for that. I've never heard anyone give a good reason for a contract. We get to this point in this lifestyle. Well, I just like how it sounds. Really? And you don't think that's a red flag? You're picking a sound over the reality. Because I think what they want to say is, I like that someone thinks that they've signed a contract and signed their rights away, because that's what contracts do. Welcome to BDSM 101, and we're going to explain why contracts are so problematic and dangerous in this lifestyle. I want you to understand that people are no longer with us because they signed a contract, were told they had to follow it, took it literally to the point where they did things that made them so sick and they are no longer with us. This is the abuse that comes from contract and the idea that someone has no. Welcome to BDSM101, and we're going to give you clarity and put you into the right focus with this. And as crazy as this sounds, it needs to be said out loud. Wash your hands. What's wrong with all of you who aren't washing your hands? And yes, this is definitely directed towards one gender more than another. But washing your hands, just think about what you've touched when you went into the club. You've touched your bag. Your bag's outside is probably not the cleanliest thing in the world. Unzip it, open it, and then wash your hands. Take a wet one. Have your hands clean, because walking inside, you've probably paid money. You've probably touched and shook hands, and you're not even thinking about this. And this is when you're out and about. Even at home, you should wash your hands before you touch your toys, because you've hopefully cleaned them, sanitized them. There's nothing wrong with a quick wet one across, the implements, especially if those implements have the potentiality to cause abrasions and beyond onto the skin. And we want to be very careful that there's nothing wrong with, by the way, especially if you're going to be playing with leaking fluids from the body, that you take a wet one to the area where those fluids will leak. And it's not, get your head out of the gutter. I'm not talking about those, and those don't leak. Those are coming out the way they're supposed to. But sometimes we penetrate the skin, causing a fluid release. So we want to be very careful about that. But wash your damn hands. I mean, go up and look at the history today and be amazed at how many lives were saved when we just started washing our hands in surgery and beyond. Oh my goodness. Let's learn from our ancestors on this one and wash your damn hands. Welcome to BDSM101, and we're going to give you clarity and put you into the right focus with this. And as crazy as this sounds, it needs to be said out loud. Wash your hands. What's wrong with all of you who aren't washing your hands? And yes, this is definitely directed towards one gender more than another. But washing your hands, just think about what you've touched when you went into the club. You've touched your bag. Your bag's outside is probably not the cleanliest thing in the world. Unzip it, open it, and then wash your hands. Take a wet one. Have your hands clean, because walking inside, you've probably paid money. You've probably touched and shook hands, and you're not even thinking about this. And this is when you're out and about. Even at home, you should wash your hands before you touch your toys, because you've hopefully cleaned them, sanitized them. There's nothing wrong with a quick wet one across, the implements, especially if those implements have the potentiality to cause abrasions and beyond onto the skin. And we want to be very careful that there's nothing wrong with, by the way, especially if you're going to be playing with leaking fluids from the body, that you take a wet one to the area where those fluids will leak. And it's not, get your head out of the gutter. I'm not talking about those, and those don't leak. Those are coming out the way they're supposed to. But sometimes we penetrate the skin, causing a. So we want to be very careful about that. But wash your damn hands. I mean, go up and look at the history today and be amazed at how many lives were saved when we just started washing our hands in surgery and beyond. Oh my goodness. Let's learn from our ancestors on this one and wash your damn hands. Welcome to BDSM1.
Pornography writes the sexual scripts of our lives. It tells us what's normal, what's acceptable, and what's safe.
The fuck it does. Shit, puff, puff, pass. What you been smoking?
Pornography writes the sexual scripts of our lives.
BDSM is not inherently sexual. Maybe to you, it's 100% sexual. Maybe you're a pleasure dom. I don't know you. I do know BDSM. And I would bet serious money. I have more experience talking to people, talking with people, listening to people, which is something you can't do very well. And I'm saying that from experience now. And I would bet I know more about the topic than you do. Because right now you're excommunicating every asexual person in our community. You're excommunicating everyone who does pickup play has sex with anyone. You're excommunicating those of us who don't care about gender when we play and we're playing with someone that we don't have sexual activity to. No. You came to TikTok to tell us all, despite decades of experience. Oh, no, it is. Because what? You said it? I'll have to check around. Give me a second. Does anyone give a shit? Anyone? No. We all got together very quickly and figured out we don't give a shit about your opinion on this, because it's not my opinion when I say BDSM is not sexual. That is based upon decades of research, something you haven't done. Because if you did, you would have known how this comment is full of the bull. And it shows me why people who think they know are dangerous. Because right now, you coming off vanilla. You coming off like someone who just watched 50 Shades of Grey, the movie, didn't even bother reading the book. You got a thing for Dakota Johnson? Is that what's going on here? Please stop. Just stop talking about this topic until you get an education. You're not educated. You don't know the history. You don't know much about this. And I've not had the best week. And I'd rather not take it out on someone on the internet. But you're dangerous at this moment. The fact that you could say that tells me how little you know about BDSM, about this lifestyle. And this all started with your misinterpretation of what kink is. And now it all makes sense. Whoever taught you whatever they taught, go back and get your money back if you spent any money. And if you didn't, go back and tell them they wasted your time, because you don't know. Acronyms that we often use. And today we have a brand new acronym that I came up with while talking about negotiations and the importance of expectations within negotiations. As a matter of fact, it was a cool moment where, while making the video, I realized the easiest way to explain to the viewers how to explain your expectations in negotiations was to simply use the acronym NEW. N for needs. What do you need out of the scene? The E for what are your expectations? And the W for wants. So the needs, that would be the basic setup of the scene. This is what you want. It's the need of the scene. These are things that you absolutely want within the scene. Then the E's, the expectations. So you want to tell your partner what you expect of them, what you expect the scene to feel like, what you expect the outcome of the scene to feel like. What are you looking for? Are you looking to go to subspace? Are you looking to feel completely helpless? And then the W, the wants. These are the add-ons. These are the things that you want in the scene. These are almost your desires for the scene, spelled out for your play partner. Instead of just saying, well, I want to be tied up today, go further and use new, your needs, your expectations, and your wants from the scene. All right, so what side of the slash am I? I bet you're guessing dominant, but realistically, I am the slash, which of course now means that I'm the switch. The switch is a person who can go submissive or dominant depending on the scene. Now, in fairness, if you thought I was dominant, you're 90% right. I only submit and play to very few people who just, they get it out of me. Literally, I want to have them be in control, and not often. So I'm a slash that leans heavily towards the left side, not the right. And of course, we don't know what that means. The slash is what separates the submissive and that's the dominant. It's DS relationship. So dominant's on the left, submissive's on the right. So I'm the thing in between, the slash. All right. Well, not definitive, an interesting exercise. Go to bdsmtest.org and see how you rank today. To be clear, this video is going to piss some people off. Let's get it. I, the Kink Educator, say this loudly and I want everyone to hear it, using any form of drug, alcohol, weed, and anything above and below that is not a prescription drug, and even prescription drugs should be told to the people that you're going to be playing with, so they're aware of potential risks to the scene itself. And if you have to get stoned to relax, play, you're kind of missing something, but this might offend, I don't care. And it might be different for people who've established a dynamic and are more into each other. Even then, I do not believe that alcohol or any drug should be involved. As a matter of fact, using any drug can negate consent. That's right. And don't think it's just the tops on the hot seat here. Tops have to consent to play with someone. If you're using a vape pen to get stoned and not telling the top, you just violated their consent. And I'm not talking about getting rid of pot or alcohol. I'm not an abolitionist. I believe that's what they were called. Here's the simple truth about what alcohol and other drugs do to the body. It can lessen your response reaction time. It can make you not be of a mindset that will be advantageous for play. We all know that alcohol and other drugs make a person responsive. They are mentally slower. It reduces the ability for decision making, and actually decision making that they would actually be happy with. Because we've all had the drunk or stoned who did some stupid shit. Luckily for my generation, we didn't have flip phones that took videos for the most part. You all got iPhones and catch all your friends doing dumb stuff, and I watch it on YouTube. And this all sounds funny, but let's get serious for a second. This can hurt people. You can hurt people. I have watched drunk people do dumb things and have partners that forgive them. I've heard the horror stories of the person who gets played with that is submissive, gets beaten so badly when they wake up in the morning, they're ready to call the police because they don't remember agreeing to things. And those are two or more favorable stories. There's much worse, but I'm not going to share those. If you need to take the edge off of play, then you don't understand play, in my opinion. If you need to get high or drunk to enjoy play, then you're not enjoying play. You're literally dampening your senses. I don't know about you, but let's change this for a second, right? Would you get into a car with someone who's drunk? I wouldn't. Not if they were driving. What about an airplane? What about a person operating on you? Let me tell you, the one thing BDSM is, it's a skill. We don't talk about that enough. What we do in BDSM is skill-based. And I don't want someone drinking, playing with any of my friends, anyone I care about, or certainly not playing with me. And I don't want the people I'm playing with to have something that is dampering their mind, their feeling, because they might not feel things the same way. They might not feel when they pull something or hurt something. This all sounds horrific to me. I don't know why we have these debates in communities. I don't get it. Oh, I'm better when I'm drunk. No, you think you're better. Let me tell you how many people say they're better and they're not. They're funnier. They might be funnier, but they're not better. I'll tell you that. And before you hit me with your kink is not my kink, this is a danger. This is a red flag. If someone needs to get drunk to play with you, run. And I know some people are going to be upset about it. Your kink is not my kink, but this isn't about kink. This is actually about legal standard. You're not allowed to drink when stoned. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to drive when you've been drinking and drunk or stoned. And yes, I could have re-recorded that, but it's sometimes good to see that none of us are perfect. This is how I am sober. Imagine if I were stoned or drunk. Good God. Now, of course, I'm trying to be funny and liven this up, but the truth is drinking's not a good thing. I learned that at 16 when I became an alcoholic. You do not want to drink and play. You do not want to get stoned and play. You don't want to use other drugs and play. It affects your body. Now, let me hit you with the legal standpoint. You play with someone when you're both drunk, they wake up very injured and have to go to the hospital. Let's just pretend consent is going to be agreed upon and your partner is very big on it. We're not going to turn this into a consent issue for a second. When you go to that hospital, you're even in more shit now, because when they find out you've been drinking, they're going to ask, well, should you be drinking during that? And the answer is no, you shouldn't be. Let's go to the consent thing. Around the world, especially in the United States, they are trying to change laws currently to make it so someone cannot consent to have sex if they have been drinking. I don't have a problem with this. Honestly, I don't think you should. As we've all learned in the BDSM communities, subspace is like our version of being drunk and is dangerous enough. But we understand that that's a natural side effect of everything we're doing. Now mix subspace with any substance and you can make a good journey into a bad one very quickly. You can also confuse the mind. They might not know what they're saying. Inhibitions are lower. I mean, this sounds creepy if you need to get one of your playmates lubricated with alcohol to play, or stoned so they're happy enough to play with you. Like, I can't. This makes me cringe. I recently saw someone who was educating in a educational manner, was teaching a class, and they were drinking. And I mean, hey, new people to the community, let's all have a drink and talk about how we're going to play. Not a good thing. I'd even go as far as to say that no parties, dungeons, events should have alcohol with them, outside of maybe munches. And that should be very case-by-case basis. From going to as many munches as I have, drinking's still not a good idea. It sometimes brings out the worst in people. And maybe it's a good way to check their character. I don't think so. Now, I know everyone's going to be like, but when you're stoned, you're so chill, you're so okay, you're so just mellow. And when you're that chill and that mellow, someone can take advantage of you. And it's never going to be your fault. Look, here's the real deal about life. It's never going to be your fault when someone does something shitty. It's just the truth. It's always going to be the asshole. But you don't have to go out unprotected. You know what I'm saying? We lock our doors so we have a car in the morning and it doesn't get either stolen or rifled through. I made that mistake already, and my car was rifled through. So it didn't make me at fault. It just means I didn't do something to protect myself. So this is a protect yourself moment. Do not play with people who have been using substances. It is that simple. If someone is teaching a class and they're on a substance, this might shock you, but I'm going to tell you to sit through the rest of the class. There might be something educational there. But this is now a grain of salt moment, because if they couldn't stay sober enough to be on point and, like, you know, just ready to teach you, then how much value do they put in their own words? This is not to pick on people. This is a fucking wake-up call. I take everything about this lifestyle, about my kinks, and about my community very seriously. I know people have gotten hurt because of alcohol. It's disgusting. It's disgusting that people could do that. I've had someone who got stoned, didn't tell me, and we played, and something was off, and I called it off by just backing out because it didn't seem right. Things were moving in a way I wasn't comfortable with. Found out a few weeks later, they casually told me when they were stoned again that they were stoned while we were playing. This was very upsetting to me. I felt like my consent had been violated because I would have never played with someone. Pot is now kind of a very scary thing. Because alcohol, we can kind of smell, you can kind of see. But there are some potheads that are functioning, and there are some alcoholics who are functioning too. But the alcoholics always still have that little thing. The people doing weed, it's scary, and it's not fair, and it's not something you should be doing. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, I get anxiety, and this helps with anxiety. Look, you're all adults. You want to try to go that route as a submissive, be honest. If you want to, as an adult, because that's all that should be doing this is 18 and plus. We've gone over this, adults only. So if you want to be a top who's going to get stoned and play with someone or drink, both ways, you better tell them what you've been up to. Because if you don't tell them, you've already destroyed the idea of consent because you didn't give them all the information. There's nothing positive about getting drunk except for people saying they're more comfortable. You know what I'm more comfortable with? People not getting hurt in the community. That's what I'm comfortable with. So why don't we aim higher? To be clear, this video is going to piss some people off. Let's get it. I, the Kink Educator, say this loudly, and I want everyone to hear it. Using any form of drug, alcohol, weed. This is as good as safe words. As a matter of fact, it replaces them by giving. So if you're confused about the red light, green light, go watch the video. This is an add-on to that original video. The thing I want to add is the color gold. Now, this is a great way to communicate. Was brought up by my playmate, and she said that she got this from AO3 fan fiction thing, and the color of the neck of the new light is golden. This is a way for when you're checking in, someone can just say golden, and you know what you're doing is golden. Stay where you are. Green means keep going. Yellow means slow down. Red means stop. Golden means you found the golden spot. How's that? I like it. I'll be using it. This is as good as safe. So in this video up here, we went into safe words and not demonizing them. Just wanted to talk about a few things that I didn't feel like I had time and I wanted to kind of separate out. So here we go. A little windy today. So checking in is this thing where you talk to someone, you whisper in there, are you okay? Is everything okay? Or you might even ask for direct feedback. A lot of submissives I've spoken to don't want this in play beyond the beginning. The reason for that is it kind of interrupts where they're at in their headspace or if they've achieved subspace. So safe actions. These are things that you can do to a person. I showed in the other video, you put fingers in here and close their hand. And I recently had someone at a function in my local community say that, oh, my submissives are going to get so high on play that they're never gonna be able to understand what's going on. They'd never be able to squeeze a finger. It's kind of a fallacy. You want to know why? You know where this first comes from? When you were a baby, when your parents, caretaker, nurses put their fingers in your palm, you closed it. It's just a human thing. So anyone who says that to you is kind of off base. So that will work. Other safe actions for communication. Wiggling a nose if you can, raising eyebrows. These are actions that kind of tell someone to check in with you if a submissive is doing it to a dominant. This is a direct communication between a dominant and a sub, while a sub can like kind of click their fingers. I don't suggest the middle finger. That might be taken the wrong way in play because, you know, things get intense sometimes. But clicking fingers, thumbs down if you have access to it. Find different ones that someone can use too, or direct communication. Direct communication sometimes suffers because of subspace. When someone is in that neurological, and this is a real thing because of the adrenaline and all the things, the cortisone that's being released in the brain, sometimes someone can't communicate the way that they might want to or even would like to with you because they're so kind of out of it. They're spacey. So the squeezing the finger really matters. So checking in is important when you first start playing. Checking in when you think there's a huge problem is something you probably should do. It's not always up to the submissive to call when something's going wrong. So remember, sometimes a submissive might get in a place where they are no longer able to communicate with you. And that, as the top dom, whatever you want to play yourself, is your cue to step up and insert yourself, and checking in is one. I like this one because it's so ininvasive to the scene. Very simple. If you begin to play with someone and you teach this early on as you're checking in, it'll stay throughout your entire time playing together. If you guys have a suggestion for a safe action that you use, please share it in the comments. If you have any questions beyond that about checking in or the original video, please feel free to ask. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, the goal is to make it so we can all keep playing together. So let's keep each other safe. So in this video up here, we went into safe words and not demonizing them. Just wanted to talk about a few things that I didn't feel like I had time and I wanted to kind of separate out. So here we go. A little windy today. So let's talk about aftercare tonight. It's a beautiful night in Florida. I'm going for a walk. My hair's a little messy. Give me a second, but hang in. We're going to go over everything to do with aftercare. All right, now that we got rid of all the doms who will tell you, I don't do aftercare, I don't have to, I'll find someone else to do it. We're going to talk about how dominants actually have anxiety, they have fear. It's kind of cool, right? Right here, I'm getting a cool kind of sound. So I'm going to stand here. There's a guy above my head. So what I'm trying to say to you is that there are, and it's going to be shocking, dominants that are humans. And that means they have anxieties, they have fears, they have insecurities. They might seem always dominant, but trust me, there are moments where they're afraid to lose you, especially if they care about you. There are moments where they want to make sure they're taking care of you and they're not overstepping. One of the hardest things that comes with being a dominant is never knowing really where the line is. You can feel for it, you can kind of get it. The whole goal is to get them to say yellow, to get them to think about their safe word, but never having to use it. Get them to that very edge. And it takes a lot sometimes. I've said it before, aftercare is for doms too. Sharing this with you all because maybe give your dom an extra hug. Maybe reassure them because sometimes submissives forget that doms need to be kind of inflated too. Just like you as a submissive need to be told you're a good boy or girl or a good object or some sort of caring message or some praise. Doms need that too. They're just not going to ask for it.
You are playing and negotiating and talking to a human being, not an honorific and not a role. In this BDSM 101, we're going to break down what that exactly means. Let me explain. When you say that you're submissive, that is telling someone, particularly, or the world, depending on how you're doing it, that you like to be put in a place where you're told what to do. When you're dominant, you like to tell the other people what to do. So that is the power exchange. A lot of people add on different things. It's been expanded, let's say. But just because someone goes by a role or an honorific, it does not mean you don't talk to them. You still communicate with them. You still negotiate with them, and you never assume anything. Assumed consent is the most dangerous thing in the world. Anything that's assumed is dangerous because you could be assuming wrong. Instead, communicate. Hey, I know you said you're submissive, and I know that you normally say that I can whack you with this implement. However, today I want to do something a little different with the implement. I'm going to change the angle or change where I'm hitting you. Even though I had permission for the other thing, I know I have to ask you permission for this new thing. So can we start another negotiation so I can get permission? That is it. The minute you start to assume, and it got me in trouble. Someone decided to out my information because I called into play the idea of assumed consent, but assumed consent is bullshit. Active consent is bullshit. There is only informed, consent. And you only can get that when you talk to the person and you don't make them a role or an honorific. Far too often people are like, well, they're submissive, so they like this. Oh, well, they're this, so I can do that. Or I am a this, so I can do that. Perfect example, a Dom. A Dom walks into a room, starts telling people, bend over, I'm going to spank you. I didn't like how you greeted me. You're all going to say that they're toxic and a red flag. Same thing for that brat who walks in and starts bratting to people that they had no permission to brat towards. All of what we do is consensual. End of story. We're not playing with plastic pieces. End of story. Everything needs to be communicated. And for the people who are going to be like, well, I like being treated that way. Great. Bring that up during negotiation and communication phase. That is why we negotiate. Everything we do, we communicate, we negotiate. Stop thinking a role is an excuse to do anything you want. It's not. It is a
What BDSM 101 moment lecture touched on topic do you want added? As we're halfway through our summer program, we're looking to you to find out if we're missing anything. If you don't know what we've already covered, it's really easy. Go to the BDSM 101 playlist today to find it out. And if I'm missing something, if we're missing something, let's cover it together.
You are playing and getting to people that they had no permission to brat towards. All of what we do is consensual. End of story. We're not playing with plastic pieces. End of story. Everything needs to be communicated. And for the people who are going to be like, well, I like being treated that way. Great. Bring that up during negotiation and communication phase. That is why we negotiate. Everything we do, we communicate, we negotiate. Stop thinking a role is an excuse to do anything you want. It's not. It is a descriptor. Everything we use, an honorific, a role, it's really just a descriptor. It's not a defiant or indefinite or written in stone or completely just this every day of the week things. You're playing with human beings. Even tops have bad and good days. Even tops need sometimes to be understood and have compassion thrown their way and given a minute. So let's stop treating people like roles and honorifics, and let's start treating people as human beings
who are using those roles and honorifics as a communication tool that we should follow up with negotiation. What BDSM 101 moment lecture touched on topic do you want added? As we're halfway through our summer program, we're looking to you to find out if we're missing anything. If you don't know what we've already covered, it's really easy. Go to the BDSM 101 playlist today to find it out. And if I'm missing something, if we're missing something, let's cover it together.
Welcome to another BDSM 101, where we're going to talk about what a DM is. Now, a DM is not a dungeon master, that we're not playing Dungeons and Dragons. In our lifestyle, the DM is known as a dungeon monitor. Now, their job is to monitor the establishment, the play event, or the dungeon. Their job is actually they're not put there to protect you, I should say. They are there to monitor that everything is being followed. So that means that they are there to make sure that people aren't being made uncomfortable by other people, that everyone's following the rules, and that the establishment has limited liability for things that are going on under its roof. Now, I want you to understand that they will protect you if you call a safe word, and the most common safe word now in most dungeons and play spaces is red. So if you call out red, they will come running. But if you're going to have an intense scene and you haven't talked to the DMs, then the DMs might not know that you guys are just playing. So they might try to come over and interfere because you did not communicate with them ahead of time. They might wind up kicking you out because you didn't let them know and you made people uncomfortable. Now, if you told the DM and someone came up to the DM, oh my God, that looks like it's out of control. No, they both talk to me and talk to them as a couple. If you have a partner who's like, oh, I don't really want to do it, then they shouldn't be doing anything. You need to be able to communicate. Even your submissive and slave, little or middle, need to be able to just stand there with you and go, yep, I agree. This is what we want. Just to make sure everyone's on the same page. A DM is also a person who's going to want to ask maybe, hey, what is your sign if something is wrong if you're going to use that gag? As a matter of fact, there are a lot of dungeons that don't allow gags, even play parties, because so often there are problems at our events. So I want you to really understand that the DM, the dungeon monitor, not the dungeon master, because again, we're not playing Dungeons and Dragons, is there to make sure everyone's having a great time. They are monitoring the dungeon, unlike a dungeon master who would spank the St. Andrew's cross. They're there to make sure everything is going as it should, based on the house rules, not your rules. Just because, well, I've been playing this way for 55 years and I don't see the problem, then stay home and play, old man. So if you have any questions, they go below in the comments section. See you at the next one. Make sure to look at the entire BDSM 001 and 101 playlists to make sure you're all caught up and ready to play with the right energy and the right understanding of what we do in this kinky world of ours.
So in this BDSM 101, let's talk about the new acronym, NEW, Needs, Expectations, and Wants. A great way to set the scene. Now, we talk about this a lot. We don't really think about it enough. So what do you need from a scene? Going into subspace is not a need. So you have to boil it down to the basic idea. For this scene, I need to be in ropes. I need to be tied. I need to be spanked. I need to be degraded. Those are your needs. You're telling the person what you need to happen in the scene. Your expectations. Well, expectations are that you get out safely. Expectations are that they continue to go and leave maybe bruises. Like I would like you to keep going to the point of bruising me. An expectation is I want you to completely strip me naked and I want you to touch me everywhere, and I want to be played with. Those are expectations. Now, is that a need? No, because the way that someone gets played with can change. The expectation and allowing a person to understand that's what you're expecting to happen doesn't mean that it's something that absolutely has to happen. And it also makes them aware that this is an expectation. But it could also be something that might not get to happen, like if you change things up. See, an expectation is something you're expecting, but it's not something you absolutely need in the scene. So I expect you to be able to take all my clothes off. You're going to get mad at them if you guys wind up not being able to take off all the clothes because you're at a club. This is the negotiation. Remember, new is an acronym of expectations, needs, and wants, but it's also a negotiation. So you're negotiating with the person, and just because you say something is a need, expectation, or want doesn't mean the other person can absolutely grant it. So the expectation to be tied up in a helpless position, that's something that's a good expectation. But it's not necessarily a need, because what one person thinks of as helpless, another person might not. Depends on the amount. This is where negotiation really comes in. So when you're talking about needs, I really want you to boil it down to the basic needs of the scene. Really say that. And then the expectations, that's kind of the way to explain it all to them. Now, want, that is something that not necessarily is in the control of everyone involved. For some people, wanting to have an orgasm doesn't mean they will. Wanting to go to subspace doesn't mean you can. Wanting to feel absolutely drained at the end of it, again. So I really want you to think about your wants as things that if they don't happen, you're going to be okay with, and understand that. And as you're negotiating this, unless you know your partner really well and can instantly get them to the point of the big O, or you can get them to subspace, kind of be like, well, not really sure how easy you go into this or not, and what exactly it entails. Because over time, playing with someone, you might be able to just get them to that subspace, but sometimes it's just a bad day. Chemicals are off in the body. There's a sound or a smell that stops you from getting all the way there. And this is why it's an important in negotiation. You're setting up basically the scene in a way that you know what the success is. And the success is getting all the needs. Getting half the expectations and getting a few of the wants. That's where the wins are. I hope that makes sense. And it's a great way to negotiate with someone, because if someone's brand new and they say, I want to go to subspace, that opens the door to questions like, well, what typically gets you to subspace? This is a great conversation maker. So in this BDSM, applying fantasy to humans, and they're not plastic pieces, and the things we're going to have to talk about in this BDSM 101, hopefully will set you straight. Look, I get it. You got a fantasy. It's kinky. You want to do it to a person. Far too often, many of you forget that you're doing it to a human being, and you're doing it to them for the first time. So many of you are so eager to get into the fantasy, you're forgetting the human being, the soul behind all the things you want to do to them. And they might be excited, but if they've never felt it, if they've never experienced it before, you're going to have to go in slower. You don't come out swinging the bat as hard as you can on day one, and you should never swing as hard as you can. I want you to understand that's a human being. That's not just something. I know we talk about them being play toys and people wanting to be used, but do they really? A lot of times, no. What most people want is to be given an experience and taken on by someone who's qualified and knowledgeable, not someone who just will go in and hit with brass knuckles and not care. That's where negotiation, communication, and even things like diaper, did I ask permission extensively with representation, comes in handy, because you want to ask them questions. What do you think this means? How do you think this will feel? What are you really looking for? And speaking of that, every scene should use the new acronym: N for needs, E for expectations, and W for wants. Very important things, because they're not plastic pieces. They're human beings. Do the work. Find out what it means to them, and then apply it the best you can for the best scene you can possibly have. And understand the first scene with that person's never going to be as good as the 100th scene. Because the more you get to know each other, the more the intense play is going to be able to go. You'll be able to read body language. Super understated how important body language is in knowing your partner's body language. Go out there and play with a human being, not a plastic piece. If you want that, just get a blow-up doll. This needs to be said. Young kinksters are most preyed on by young kinksters. Far too often, TNGs, which is supposed to be the next generation, and all the events we're like, oh, come hang out with us, we're young and cool, wind up being predatory. I don't know why that is. Honestly, I wish I did. And I'm not saying all. Very important we point that out. I'm not saying all. I'm saying all too often in this video. And I'm saying that there is always problematic behavior. Maybe it's immaturity. We can go there. And this lifestyle is not great for someone who can't handle the maturity, that the load of the responsibility that is this lifestyle at younger ages. That is possible.
But far too often, especially young women, are like, oh my God, I can't date anyone older than me. I can't play with anyone older than me. I can only play with people my age who are uneducated, don't know what they're doing, and problematic. And I'm not saying all. By the time I was 18, I had a good amount of knowledge, and I was not going to be anything that all the rest of them are. And I've been very good to my partners, and I'm proud of that fact. That is something I'm very proud of. I have been doing this trick, squeeze my hand, for decades now. And I'm proud of that. And I'm not saying all young people are bad. As a matter of fact, I think most young people are good, but it attracts. You know, it's like the TNGs who are like, we're only 30 and under. And then suddenly someone comes around and they're 35 and under, or they're 40 and under. That's a sign that there's a predator behind something. TNG, if you want to do it's not a bad thing for young people to get together, but they shouldn't have play parties. I'll say that. They shouldn't. You need people who really understand things. You should only go to play parties that in fact are for the entire community or the slice of the community you're in. This might be controversial, but I've got the experience to back it up. From New York City down to Florida, I've talked to people on the Northeast and on the West Coast and the East Coast and the center. And a lot of times I hear how horrible TNG was. I can't report there are great TNGs, but generally what I have found, the magic of the TNGs is that TNG's not having parties, and only munches is the TNG that works. Why is that? Because no one's looking for a reward for education. Think about it. Think about it. This. Okay, everybody. That's the end. We have gotten to it. I appreciate you all for tuning in and watching this. We kept it under an hour. There's so much more than this. This is just some of the videos that we have collected. As I'm doing this today, we're adding even more videos to our playlists. The playlist can be found, and we'll call this back up just so you guys can see it. We'll show you where they are. So bear with me as we're going to bring this back on to our stage. So let me do this so you guys can see it go full. So the playlists are down here, as you guys can see. So we have a whole bunch of different playlists available for you. We're playing with them today, so the order is a little wanky. But usually we will do is we start with the most important thing, that being, I think it's not showing it, but generally speaking, consent is our first one. And for some reason, I don't think it's showing it. So consent is usually where we start the list. It's just not showing it in this particular configuration, but that's where normally you should see consent being the first. History and treaties and the questions for the Kink Educator, Kink Educator, and library. Just as a quick heads up, on FetLife today, we turned this into an organization, and that's because of all of you who show up, who watch these videos, who have been part of this community. We've been growing for almost 2 years now. It is more than me now. I am merely the voice and the representative of the Kink Educator community, which it kind of is its own educational community that comes to you live on the internet. And it gives people the ability to learn from home, because as we always say, the lifestyle is bigger than the community. And never forget that. And our closing speech, here we go. BDSM is not inherently sexual. We communicate, we negotiate, we discuss play profiles, safety protocols, risk profiles, medical history, aftercare needs, and the new acronym, needs, expectations, and wants, to find out how we can make our scenes and dynamics more thrilling and exciting. And only then, with all the information given and garage time put in place, can we ask for consent, informed, mind you, nothing more. So it's informed, consent, for dominance to take hold in our dynamics and our playing scenes, so we can all be rewarded. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button. Look at that. I got it in under an hour. Sure, it's a few seconds, but I'll take the win.